This problem is a fairly straightforward problem regarding measures of dispersion, and the question says find the range, mean, variance, and standard deviation of the population data set. The reason why I chose this particular problem is the wording population data set. If you'll notice from your textbook, the formulas for variance and standard deviation are different with respect to whether or not you're finding those values for your sample versus your population. So this one is asking for the population variance and standard deviation. When I open up this data set in StatCrunch, it defaults to only giving you the sample standard deviation and sample variance. So there is a way to have StatCrunch give you the those population values. So let me go ahead and answer this first question. Fairly simple. The range is going to be the highest value minus the lowest value. So just by observation I can see the highest value is 22, and I'm going to subtract the lowest value, which is 3. So I'm going to enter in 19. Okay, and so I'll move on to the next part. Okay, they want the mean. Now the formula for the sample mean and the formula for the population mean are the same. So the value for the mean that we get from StatCrunch will be the correct value in either case. So to have the software copy over these data values into StatCrunch, I can click on this copy to table, and my first choice is to open in StatCrunch. So instead of having to type in the values, which would not be that difficult for this small data set, I can have the software do it for me, which is a really nice feature. Okay. Okay, so if you get this message, you want to say yes. Okay, so you'll notice that the data is copied into the first column. If I wanted to, I could retitle this first column. Okay, but I don't feel that's necessary in this case. Okay, so I'm going to click on Stat and scroll down to Summary Statistics. Okay, same instructions as in the previous video I created, and I want the summary statistics for the column. Okay, so I need to select the column, so I'm going to double click there. To get the computer to show you the population variance, I'm going to click on Next rather than Calculate. Okay, because that way I can adjust what values I want to get. This IQR is the interquartile range, which is something that you're going to find in the next section. Okay, so if you notice, this unadjusted variance is going to be the population variance. It's not highlighted, so you want to click on that to add that, and the unadjusted standard deviation will be the population standard deviation. What they mean by unadjusted is they're not subtracting 1 from the sample size, which is what happens in the formula for the sample variance and standard deviation. Okay, now I'm going to click on Calculate, and then I'll get my window of values for this particular data set. Okay, so here's the sample variance. The sample variance is 48.7. Now you'll notice that the population variance is a little bit smaller. It's actually 38.96. Now we're told to assume that data set is the entire population. Okay, you will be told when you're working with population values, so pay attention to the wording of the problem. If you're not told that you're using the population values, then you should safely assume that you're dealing with a random sample. Now you'll notice that the variance being larger than the population variance is a result from subtracting 1 in that denominator. In other words, it's overestimating what the true population variance is, and that's considered more appropriate than underestimating the true population variance and standard deviation.